sarga, visargascha, sthanam, poshanam, utayaha, manvantareshanu katho, nirodha muktir ashrayaha. So one of the topics is the status quo. Sthanam. Sthanam means the status quo. So the first canto is called creation, sarga. Second canto is called visarga, secondary creation. The primary creation is done by Mahavishnu and Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Okay? The secondary creation is done by Brahma. You all heard, Brahma is the creator. So Brahma does a secondary creation. Secondary creation means he is provided the ingredients for the creation. He is given the skill for creation. He is given the knowledge for creation. Everything Vishnu gives. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. He is born from Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is also called Padmanabha, because from his navel, Nabhi, one Padma, one lotus flower comes out at the beginning of creation, and Brahma is born on that lotus flower. So Brahmaloka is situated on the lotus flower coming out of the navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Anyway, so this third canto, Prabhupada has given the title Status Quo, Sthanam. And the 20th chapter is entitled Conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. Now basically Bhagavatam is Parikshit Maharaj asking questions and Shukadeva Goswami giving answers. But the presentation by Vyasadeva is different, little different. Just like Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, Krishna-Arjuna Samvada. So Arjuna is asking questions, Krishna is giving answers. But how has Vyasadeva presented it? He has presented it as Dhritarashtra asking one question and Sanjaya, his secretary, giving all the answers. Similarly, this Bhagavatam is presented by Vyasadeva. Author or compiler of the Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita is Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva has got a very interesting way of presentation. Interesting way of... See, the Vedas are very, in one sense, very, very boring. I shouldn't use this word. It is offense to use this word. It's very, very technical. Means all the injunctions of the Vedas are do's and don'ts. Dharma, the codes of Dharma, the codes of God. But in Vyasadeva's presentation of the Puranas, Itihasas, and even the Vedanta Sutra, and even the Bhagavad Gita, it's in a question-answer format. So question-answer makes it very interesting. And even though Dhritarashtra asks one question, beginning of Bhagavad Gita, and Sanjaya gives the answer in so many verses, remaining verses. 700 verses, one verse is question of Dhritarashtra. The 699 verses are spoken by Sanjaya. But if Sanjaya keeps speaking, Dhritarashtra will slowly go to sleep off. Or his attention will go somewhere. So Sanjaya is describing what is happening on the battlefield. So he is describing. The battle is about to begin. Duryodhana went to Dronacharya and Duryodhana began to speak with Dronacharya. So like that, it goes on describing. Then suddenly Arjuna and Krishna, Arjuna tells Krishna, take my chariot between the two armies. What happened? Arjuna became overwhelmed by seeing the enemy. And then Arjuna says, I won't fight. So Prabhupada says Dhritarashtra would have become very happy. Oh, Arjuna is not going to fight. He's going to go away from the battlefield. But immediately Sanjaya says, no. Arjuna is not going to leave the battlefield. Don't worry. Here now, what happened? After Arjuna said, I won't fight, Krishna said, give up this petty weakness of heart. Stand up and fight. Suddenly Dhritarashtra became very shocked. See, all these things are there in Vyasadeva's presentation. Vyasadeva was a genius in presentation. So similarly, Bhagavatam, he is presented questions by the sages. What does Bhagavatam begin with? Questions by the sages. Some sages had assembled in Naimisharanya, holy place, and they were very anxious to do good to the people in general. And they foresaw that Kali Yuga is going to begin now. End of Dwapar Yuga. Kali Yuga is going to begin. And these living entities, they are trapped in material existence. And what is the hope for them in Kali Yuga? That they will take to Krishna consciousness or Dharma and get deliverance. So what is the hope for them? So they assembled and they had a conference. Actually, what is this assembly called? In modern terms, it's called a conference. So they are discussing among themselves, and Suta Goswami walks into the assembly. Suta Goswami. And Suta Goswami is recognized by all the sages as a very, very learned, great personality, pure devotee of Krishna. So Suta Goswami is offered a seat of respect by the sages, leader of the sages, Shaunaka Rishi. And then he begins to ask questions. So the first chapter of the Bhagavatam is questions by the sages. And the rest of the Bhagavatam is only answers given by Suta Goswami. His name is Ugrashrava Suta. He is the son of another great sage, Romaharshana Suta. So Ugrashrava Suta's answers to the 6 questions of the sages of Naimisharanya is Bhagavatam, as presented by Vyasadeva. But it is not merely they asked questions and he gave answers and Bhagavatam is over. No. He finished answering their questions in 2 chapters, 2nd chapter and 3rd chapter of the 1st canto. Over. Khatam. But he did not stop there. Why? Because these sages had assembled for performing a 1,000-year sacrifice. Why? For the welfare of the people of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is going to begin, and Kali Yuga, there are so many disadvantages as compared to other yugas. Prayena alpa sabya, you have heard this. Kala vismin yuge janaha manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya upadritaha. So based on these conditions of Kali Yuga, which are the most disadvantageous conditions, so they are asking questions. 6 questions they ask. These questions are fundamental questions. Most fundamental questions. In fact, one of our acharyas describes the whole Bhagavatam is answered to these 6 questions only, even though Suta Goswami finishes answering the 6 questions in 2 chapters. Say about 50, 60 verses. That's all. But then Suta Goswami is seeing that these sages, they're very eager to hear about Krishna. And he indicates that Yat krita Krishna samprashno yenatma suprasidati. The questions you have asked all pertain ultimately to Krishna. 6 questions here they have asked. Out of that, 1 question directly concerns Krishna. For what purpose did Krishna appear as the son of Devaki and Vasudeva? This is one of the 6 questions. So that question you can say directly pertains to Krishna. But Suta Goswami says all your 6 questions pertain to Krishna only. So he says, therefore, because you're very eager to hear about Krishna, now I shall narrate to you the Srimad Bhagavatam, which I heard when Shukadeva Goswami spoke the Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. So then the sages become very, very, very enthusiastic that Suta Goswami is such a revered sage. So he's about to begin speaking the Bhagavatam. Shaunaka Rishi interrupts him and says, can I speak? He says, yes, what do you want to speak? Suta Suta Mahabhago. He says, you are very, very great saintly personality, and we are very fortunate to have met you today. Kindly tell us, before you recite the Bhagavatam, tell us, how did Parikshit Maharaj meet Shukadeva Goswami? Because we have heard Shukadeva Goswami immediately after birth, he walked away from his home. He was wandering like a madman, naked. He would not stay in any place for more than little time. How much time? Time required for milking a cow. That also little milk. He would only beg some milk in his palms of his hand. And why would he do that? Because he's dependent on milk for his subsistence? No. Because he wanted to make the householders fortunate by giving him bhiksha. When a householder gives bhiksha to a saintly person, then the householder automatically gets spiritual benefit without doing anything, any spiritual activity, just by giving bhiksha. But then again, the purpose of asking bhiksha is also not only to make the householder fortunate by giving bhiksha, but also to enlighten the householders in spiritual subject matter, in Krishna consciousness. So he would go, just beg a little milk, Ashirvachan, some few words he would speak, chant Hare Krishna, and then go on. So that Shukadeva Goswami, he spoke the entire Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. So kindly describe to us, how did Parikshit Maharaj meet Shukadeva Goswami? Then also describe to us that activities of Parikshit Maharaj, because we've heard, even though he's a king, he was a great saintly devotee also. So kindly describe his activities to us. So give us the background for this meeting between Parikshit Maharaj and Shukadeva Goswami before you tell us the Bhagavatam. So the rest of the first canto, Suta Goswami only describes how did Parikshit Maharaj meet Shukadeva Goswami. That's all he describes. So in between, when Suta Goswami is narrating the Bhagavatam, Shaunaka Rishi keeps asking him questions. In between, when Parikshit Maharaj is hearing the Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj keeps asking questions. So Bhagavatam is presented in the form of questions and answers. And these questions and answers are between different personalities throughout the Bhagavatam. So this chapter, conversation between Maitreya and Vidura, how did Shukadeva Goswami come to this point of describing? This is actually described by Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj and repeated by Suta Goswami to the sage of Naimisharanya. So, how did Shukadeva Goswami get into this topic, conversation with Maitreya and Vidura? whatever question Parikshit asks Shukadeva Goswami, sometimes Shukadeva Goswami directly answers the question. Sometimes he says, exactly the question you have asked. One question, the same question was asked by Vidura to Maitreya. So let me narrate to you the conversation between Maitreya and Vidura, by which you will get the answer to your question. I don't have to separately give you the answer. So like that, Vidura asked some questions when he met Maitreya when he was on a pilgrimage. In Haridwar he met Maitreya. So like that, the entire Bhagavatam describes so many different conversations. Sometimes devotees say it's too complicated to follow the different the trail of the conversations. Who asks which question, what answer he gives. Prabhupada says, don't worry so much about who meets whom, where did they meet, what question they had. Don't worry about it. You only take the essence of the Bhagavatam, which is describing Krishna. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written one book. He calls that book, he gives a title to the book, Krishna Samhita. A short, small book, it's not as big as Bhagavatam, but it describes the essence of the Bhagavatam, teachings of the Bhagavatam, and he gives the title Krishna Samhita because he says, Bhagavatam is the only Vedic literature which describes Krishna exclusively. Samhita means Vedic literature. And this is that Vedic literature which only exclusively describes Krishna. Therefore, he calls it Krishna Samhita. That Vedic literature which exclusively describes Krishna. And what is there in the Krishna Samhita? It is a summary of the Bhagavatam. Why? Because Bhagavatam is Krishna Samhita. Bhagavatam is exclusive literature dedicated for describing Krishna. So Bhagavatam only describes Krishna. That's all. And who is Krishna? Krishna is supreme absolute truth. All the Vedic literatures are describing the absolute truth. And because Bhagavatam describes Krishna, who is the absolute truth, therefore Bhagavatam is also Vedic literature. The Mayavadis don't accept Bhagavatam as the Vedic literature. That's another big explanation I had to give. Why? Let's not get into that. So let me come to the conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. Today we are discussing the 29th verse. 29th verse? Yes? Please repeat after me. Tam Kvanat Charana Ambhojam Tam Kvanat Charanam Bhojam Mada Vikvala Lochanam Mada Vikvala Lochanam Kanchi Kalapa Vilasad Kanchi Kalapa Vilasad Dukula Channa Rodhasam Dukula Channa Rodhasam Tam Kvanaccharanam Bhojam Madavikvalalochana Kanchi Kalapa Vilasar Dukula Channa Rodhasam. I directly go to translation. We don't have much time. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Just hear this. The body given, the translation, the body given by Brahma took the form of the evening twilight when the day and night meet. Sayam Sandhya it's called. A time which kindles passion. The asuras who are passionate by nature dominated as they are by the element of rajas, took it for a damsel whose lotus feet resounded with the tinkling of anklets, whose eyes were wide with intoxication, and whose hips were covered by fine cloth, over which shone a girdle. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As early morning is the period for spiritual cultivation, the beginning of evening is the period for passion. Demoniac men are generally very fond of sex enjoyment. Therefore, they very much appreciate the approach of evening. The demons took the approach of the evening twilight to be a beautiful woman, and they began to adore her in various ways. They imagined the twilight to be a very beautiful woman with tinkling bangles on her feet, a girdle on her hips, and beautiful breasts, and for their sexual satisfaction, they imagined the appearance of this beautiful girl before them. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So this verse is being described by Maitreya to Vidura. Vidura is asked something about the creation. So Maitreya describes the initial creation by Vishnu, two Vishnus, Mahavishnu and Garbhodakshai Vishnu. And then after that, Brahma takes over. What does Brahma create? Brahma creates the bodies of the living entities. So Brahma creates by first giving birth to, Brahma himself is born of Vishnu. So Brahma creates the Prajapatis. The Prajapatis are the creators of the population of the whole universe in different species. So the Prajapatis create the first of each species. Just like Swayambhava Manu is the Prajapati for creating the human species. So he had 3 daughters, and that will be described in the beginning of the 4th canto, and 2 sons. And the entire human population began with his having 3 daughters and 2 sons, 5 children. And for the sake of giving birth, generating them, the Prajapati, Manu, Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva Manu himself is born as Prajapati, as the son of Brahma. So Brahma created initially the progeny, because Brahma was alone. He was born of Vishnu, but he is alone. So he created different Prajapatis from the different parts of his body. He is empowered to create. From his mind, he created the 4 Kumaras, Narada. 4 Kumaras are Naishtika Brahmacharis, because they are only interested in self-realization. They are not interested in creating progeny. Narada, he is not interested in creating progeny because he is a pure devotee. He simply wants to preach Krishna consciousness. So Narad Muni travels all over the world and simply preaches Krishna consciousness. That's all. The Kumaras, they are engaged basically in cultivation of knowledge, spiritual knowledge, for the sake of self-realization. So like that, Brahma created different Prajapatis from different parts of his body. So 2 of the creations of Brahma are Manu. He's called Swayambhu Manu because he's born as the son of Brahma. And he created a daughter. A daughter was born from another part of his body, Shatarupa. So Swayambhu Manu and Shatarupa are actually son and daughter of Brahma. But because there is no possibility of creating the progeny of human species without the method of procreation, a male and a female will combine to generate an offspring. Therefore, under the instruction of Brahma, Swayambhu Manu and Shatarupa, they got married and they gave birth to 5 children. Now, those 5 children they got married further to the other progeny generated by Brahma. Other progeny generated by Brahma. So that's described in detail later on. But for now, the creation of Brahma is being described by Maitreya. Brahma's creation. So here it is described that Brahma creates a different types of species. So Brahma created the demons from his buttocks. Like from different parts of his body, different species are born. So the demons were born and their characteristic is they are very much fond of sex. So Brahma actually became very ashamed that I had to create this species called demons who are very fond of sex. So then the description is so these demons, as soon as they are born, because they are very fond of sex, they approach Brahma for sex. So Brahma became, first he laughed at their stupidity. Then he became very fearful. Then he approached the personality of Godhead. Because he has got only shelter of the Supreme Lord. He is born from the Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord is his father. So he approached his father, the Supreme Lord Vishnu. And Vishnu advised Brahma. He said, before they can attack you, you give up this body. You cast off this body. So that body he cast off, that took the form of evening twilight. And these demons who are after Brahma for enjoying sex life, they saw Brahma is gone. Then they saw, what did Brahma do? He cast off his body, that became evening twilight. So anyway, they are very desirous of having sex. So they imagined that evening twilight to be a form of a woman. And that is being described here. The body given up by Brahma took the form of evening twilight. The asuras, who are passionate by nature, dominated as they are by the element of rajas, took it for a damsel. Damsel means a beautiful young woman, whose lotus feet resounded with the tinkling of anklets, whose eyes were wide with intoxication, whose hips were covered, and all this is imagination of the demons. Evening twilight is the time in the evening when the day gets over and the night begins. So it's not exactly dark, neither it is completely light. It is in between. Twilight. It's called twilight. So they imagined that twilight, appearance of twilight time to be a woman, a beautiful young woman. So that this means that in this material world, there is only the creations of Maya which we imagine due to our desire for material, for enjoyment, we imagine to be enjoyable. So we have two kinds of desires for enjoyment. One is to desire for enjoying the creation of Maya as the different living entities in different bodies. And the second type of creation is all the inanimate objects: earth, water, fire, air, sky, mind, intelligence, ego. And the combinations of this, combination of 5 elements gives rise to different objects. And they are called objects of sense enjoyment. Panchabhuta. And the combinations of the 3 subtle elements, manas, buddhi, ahankara. Combination of 5 elements you can see, you can perceive, right? The different bodies of the living, gross bodies of living entities, and also the different objects. But the combination of the 3 elements, very difficult to understand. What are these 3 elements? We can't even perceive them using our 5 senses, external senses, 5 gross senses. But you can understand them only by knowledge. So Vedic knowledge describes these 3 elements combined to form the subtle body of the living entities. Sukha Sharira. So every living being, every spirit soul who has taken birth in this material world has got 2 kinds of bodies. Gross body made up of 5 elements and subtle body made up of 3 elements. As human beings, we can understand what the subtle body is. Subtle body is made up of mind, intelligence and ego, which are the 3 subtle elements, correct? But these 3 subtle elements are useless because they dead matter. It is the Paramatma, Vishnu, who enters as Paramatma in our heart and actually makes this gross body, which is simply a combination of the 5 elements, which is dead matter, makes it like a living body, makes it a living body. And he gives life to this living body by using one of his energies called Pranavayu. Prana. We say, somebody dies, we say, Pran chala gaya. Correct? Pran chala gaya. So that prana is actually the vital life force circulating in this body to make this body living. To make this body living is that pranavayu circulation. So it is pranavayu circulation which makes the heart pump blood. Some 6 years back, I went to MIT in Boston. One of our devotees arranged that a lecture by me to the MIT students. So I spoke on what is this prana. So I just asked them a question. All of you know we have got one part of the body is heart. Heart is basically what? Blood pump. So how many times does it pump blood? 72 times a minute. This is what medical science says. So I asked all of them. They're all postdoctoral students they were. The others were having holiday. So they were not in the MIT campus. So only this doctorate and postdoctoral students were there. So these doctorate and postdoctoral students were attending my lecture. So I asked them, you know that 72 times this heart beats, that is pumping the blood? I said, yes, we agree. So then I said, how is this pump working? I made them do one calculation. I didn't just say 72 times a minute. I said, let's say average lifespan of a human being, say one person lives for 80 years. So how many times the heart would have pumped blood in the entire lifetime of that individual? So they did calculation and said some 420 crores it comes to, roughly I remember. 420 crore times any pump is there made by human beings which will continuously keep pumping blood, pumping some liquid or whatever. No, we don't know of any pump. And this pump is working in every human being at least. This much you should admit. Even animals also there's a heart. But anyway, let's take, what is the population of the entire earth planet? 7 billion people. 7 billion pumps are working continuously throughout their lifetime. Because it stops working, finished. We cannot survive. Correct? Band ho jayega to khatam. So, how is this heart working? And at least in an 80-year-old person, 420 crore times it keeps pumping. Where is the energy coming from? They're all completely dazed. We don't know where the energy is coming from. Then one of them said, oh, the food we eat gets converted to energy, no? That's making this body work. I said, yeah. That's one understanding. But we have got a deeper understanding in our Bhagavad Gita. So I quoted one verse from the Bhagavad Gita and told them, Bhagavad Gita says, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritaha Pranapana Samayukta Pachamyannam Chaturvidham. You eat food every day, and then when the food gets digested, you feel hungry. Then again you eat. Again the food is digested, again you feel hungry. Again you eat. So food is required for maintenance of this body, otherwise the body cannot be maintained. Right? So how is this food getting digested in the body? So medical scientists will say there's a digestive system. Right? So Prabhupada gives a challenge to the scientists. If you think that we get energy from the food we eat, food, water, air we breathe, all the three are combined, with secretions from the different parts of the body. Stomach secretes hydrochloric acid, liver secretes bile juice, pancreas secretes insulin. All these combine and they are digesting the food. Correct? Correct? So that generates energy, and that energy is basis of our doing all the work and utilizing the energy for different purposes. Okay. Now, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the fire of digestion in your stomach, and I digest the food you eat. So what does it mean? I asked them. No, we don't know what it means. You explain to us. So the digestion doesn't happen because we put some food and some water and the air we breathe combines in the stomach. Nothing will combine by itself. A person has to combine. You're producing so many different products, right, in the chemical industry. But will they automatically you keep one bottle of sulfuric acid, another bottle of some other chemical, and they'll combine and become some sulfate, calcium sulfate. Sulfuric acid and what is that? Carbonic acid, what is it? Calcium alkali. Calcium carbonate, you combine, you become sodium sulfate, okay, something. So how will this combination happen? A person has to combine. Then only it will happen. It never happens by itself. Nothing combines by itself and becomes a product that you want. No. So if you have to digest food, somebody has to combine them. Are you combining all the ingredients properly in the stomach? You are just ingesting. You don't even know how it goes to the stomach. Medical science says there is something called, what is that called? Something. Peristalsis, movement of the food pipe, because the food is pushed down into the stomach. And stomach, there are so many secretions coming in. Some secretion from the liver, some secretion from the stomach itself, and they are all combined, and then the food is digested. Okay. So who is combining this? So Bhagavad Gita teaches us Krishna is combining. Now where is Krishna? He is seated in our heart as Paramatma. But as Paramatma, he is not combining. He is combining by being present as the fire of digestion. Just like what do the scientists do in a chemistry lab? Those of you who have studied chemistry, what do you do to produce some reaction? You take one test tube, puts one chemical, two chemicals, three chemicals, then you heat that on the fire, on a small burner, correct? So like that, this food to be combined with the chemicals, it has to be heated. So where is that heat coming from? It is coming from Krishna. How is Krishna supplying that heat? Krishna says, I am the fire of digestion. And what is this fire of digestion? It's called Jataragni in Ayurveda. Or in Bhagavad Gita, it's called Vaishwanara. And this Vaishwanara is actually generated from the Pranavayu. Pranavayu. Therefore, in Ashtanga Yoga, there is one practice of pranayama. One step in Ashtanga Yoga is pranayama. Pranayama is regulating the movement of the vital air within the body by breathing exercises. What does that do? That pranayama, it properly regulates the movement of the pranavayu, by which all these combinations of the pranavayu will work for different functions. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, Pranapana samayuktaha pachami annam chaturvidham. Actually, Krishna is circulating the pranavayu. Pranavayu is of 10 kinds. That is described in the Bhagavatam only. 10 kinds of pranavayu. Anyway, that apart. That's another detailed description. So, Krishna says, basically for our digestion, prana, apana, two types of pranavayu are combined by Krishna within the stomach. And that generates a fire. And that fire actually is responsible for digesting the food. Food is burnt in the stomach by this Jataragni, Vaishwanara. But apart from prana and apana, the other secretions also are being combined. Other secretions are combined. So the secretions are combined with the food, water, air, and they are heated in the fire of digestion. And that's how energy is generated. That energy actually makes the heart pump. Actually, it's not that energy which makes the heart pump. That energy is what we feel as strength after we eat food and digest it. Otherwise, when we are fasting, we feel little weak, no? Feel weak. One doesn't get food for many, many days, become extremely weak. No energy at all. So that energy is generated by eating food and digesting it. That energy which we have as, physical energy. Okay. Now, the energy for the heart to pump is because of the pranavayu circulation within the different organs. Pranavayu circulating in the heart makes the heart pump. Just like you have electric motor. You pass electricity, that electric motor will turn, and let's say it's a pump which pumps water. So unless electricity passes, all the parts of the pump will be perfectly okay, assembled. But unless you switch on the pump switch and pass electricity, it will not work. Similarly, the heart as a as an organ, it is in good condition, perfectly working. I am perfectly working condition. All the parts are okay. But unless pranavayu flows, the heart will not pump. Just like electricity flows, only then the electric pump will work. So I describe to those people, heart is a prana pump. Just like your electric motor is an electric pump, water pump, correct? Similarly, the heart is a blood pump, but it is a prana blood pump. Prana. I said this pranavayu is making you open your eyelids and close your eyelids. This pranavayu is making your brain work. This pranavayu is making every part of your body work. This prana is energizing your brain to have that cognitive function. See, our entire optical system, image of an object, when there is light falling on the object, the reflection of the image or the form of the object falls on the retina. And that retina, one optic nerve, transmits that image in a form of signal to the brain, one part of the brain. That part of the brain, there is an image which is transmitted, which we see. We recognize it as a form. We see. So how is that part of the brain working? Have you ever thought how the part of the brain works? That you're able to see, you're able to hear. Hear means you are recognizing, you're cognizant of sound. Seeing means you're cognizant of form. Varieties of forms. You distinguish form of a man, form of a woman, form of a table. So that cognitive function requires energy to be supplied to the brain for the brain to function in its cognitive aspect. Thinking. You are thinking using your mind. But mind is dead matter, subtle matter. So how are you able to think? Because of prana. Because of prana. So when we die, what happens? Prana leaves the body. Prana leaves the body. So when the prana leaves the body, the mind is there. Heart is there. But it will not work. Because prana is not there. The energy is not there for it to function. So brain is there, but brain works only because of prana. So this whole functioning of this pranavayu is explained in detail in the scriptures. But jnanis, who are not devotees, non-devotee jnanis, they study the whole thing and understand that the whole material world is working by the interactions of the three gunas. But they do not know how the interaction of the gunas take place. They do not know. They simply dismiss this entire actions and interaction of the three gunas by which the whole material world is functioning, working, as actions of the illusory energy or illusion called Maya. So they say this is Maya. And they say Maya doesn't exist. What do they say? Maya doesn't exist. It is what you're imagining. Just like these demons, they are mistaking Twilight to be a woman. Actually, there's no woman there. Brahma has not created any woman. Brahma has cast off his one body, which is meant for creating the demons. So, that body has taken the form of Twilight. This Twilight, because these demons are desirous of enjoyment, they are imagining that to be a form of a woman. And they want to enjoy that woman. So that is why the description is given here, that the Asuras took the twilight for, not as twilight, took it for a beautiful woman, form of a beautiful woman. And then further description will be there. So I'll stop here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki.